and welcome back to the Analyst of Vajiram and Ravi. Today is 27th of November and here are the following articles that we shall take up for today's current affair discussion. The first topic is about the mishap of the Kerala University Stampede, and we will see how a mismanaged crowd essentially becomes a disaster. In the next topic, we will discuss about the issue of Manipur insurgency, that is one of the hottest topics of current affair of this year. Then we will read about Mycoplasma pneumonia. This is in context of the recent surge of respiratory illness seen in China. And then we will read about Ayushman Arogya Mandir, which is a brand new name for the Ayushman Bharat Health and Wellness Centers. That is one among the component of the Ayushman Bharat mission. So we shall be taking up both the missions for discussion. And in the last, from the mapping perspective, we will read about a Greek island which is in news. This is the Lesbos island. We will also read the Aegean Sea and the Mediterranean Sea along with this. So let's start the discussion. So the first topic is about a crowd disaster, also known as Stampede, which has recently occurred or taken place in Cochin University of Kerala, which has led to injury of many and even death of 4. This is a very unfortunate event which needs special attention. This is also important for us, the UPSC aspirants, because from GS3 point of view, we'll be asked about disaster management, and this kind of disaster is one among the man-made disasters. So we have to read about this and the mitigation strategies. Now, once we have understood why are we reading this, let us understand what is the meaning of a stampede. How does a crowd turn into a disaster? So consider a situation where hundreds and thousands of people are subjected to a very limited space, which doesn't have a lot many dispersal points. And suddenly a trigger happens. Trigger in the form of a rumor, trigger in the form of a disaster, electric fault, etc. And this trigger leads to frenzied movement of these people who are already very close to each other because of limited space. So they frenziedly start moving towards and away from each other. This creates a havoc, a ruckus among them, which essentially leads to them loosening up the control of their body or the motion of their body, and eventually leading to many injuries and even fatalities because of trampling, because of loss of breathing. And this disaster is because man-made, it is considered as a human-made disaster, and therefore now the crowd, a mismanaged crowd, has become a crowd disaster. So I hope you have understood the meaning of stampede. Now, stampede has been happening traditionally, but those were considered as local incidences, so they were not given much attention. But nowadays, we are seeing recurrent amount of stampedes, especially in the religious sites, which account for more than 79% of the total stampedes that happen not just in India, but across the world. But even in India, we are of late seeing a lot many stampede instances growing, from Enfield-Stern's stone bridge, over the ground bridge in Mumbai, to the Varanasi stampede, then the mud, then there are other festivals, for example, the music festivals of India, for example, live concerts. So all of them have also been seeing a lot of stampedes of late. So therefore, this brings us the need to have or to put more attention on this new kind of emerging disaster. Now, why does it typically occur? Because we are putting so many people into very, very confined space. For an average human to take balanced movements or to control his movement effectively, he would need at least 1 square yard of space. And in such restricted spaces, they are not getting that space, they lose control and therefore fall upon each other, leading to trampling, leading to death. Now, therefore, a mismanaged crowd essentially becomes a stampede. Now, once we know that it has been happening traditionally, but it has got resurgent or recurrent in the following decade, as it has also been highlighted by a report of NCRB, National Crime Record Bureau has highlighted that in the last decade, about 2,000 lives have been claimed by the stampedes. Now, why is this happening? This is happening because, first of all, we are seeing huge population upsurgence, huge population growth, especially in developing countries like India. Developing countries like India are also having a lot many public gatherings because we are a country of festival. Festivals would have a lot many gatherings in the form of Durga Puja, in the form of Chhat Puja, in the form of visiting to our shrines, which has also led to emergence of some of the stampedes. For example, last year, Vaishno Devi stampede happened and it claimed about 12 lives over there. So the rising public gathering is also happening, not just because we are a country of religion, but we're also a country of celebration. So with the rising standard of living, people are now joining concerts more than ever. They are participating in large number. As we call that the concerts are jam-packed, establishing the fact that we are confining a lot many people into restricted spaces. So this is the second reason. And next reason is that there is increased use of public transport. While this is an effective step in order to abate the climate change, or in order to basically have more anti-pollution measures, in order to have sustainable urbanization, but it essentially does one thing. Because we are having a lot many population, a lot many number of people who are subjected or who are traveling through public transports, it might happen that the railway and the metro stations essentially gets overwhelmed, especially during the festivities. So if you are living somewhere near the metro stations, you must have seen it, observed it yourself also. So anyway, a lot of metro station hazards and railway station hazards have also taken place. Why? Because there is overwhelming number of people again subjected to limited amount of capacity that the public transports have to accommodate them. So these are some of the growing reasons which has led to us bringing a spotlight on the stampedes or the crowd disasters. Now, what are the triggers of the crowd-related disasters? So NDMA has come to the rescue, and it has not only established guidelines of crowd-related disasters but also established some of the 6 categories showing that why stampede or crowd disasters take place in the first instance. So there are some of the following causes that I have enlisted. The first one is the structural failures and the overcrowding. Structural failures are happening in India because either we are having poor quality of material used, either the infrastructure is very, very old, it is not maintained, it is not monitored. Also, the existing spaces that we are creating are sky-rise buildings, which are very, very narrow buildings, having vertical lanes, having vertical or restricted lanes, having vertical staircases. So all of this is essentially a sign of us restricting the space of human movement. And therefore, when structural failures are augmented by an overcrowded space, and India for in general, we don't feel uneasy by seeing overcrowded spaces. Even, in fact, we like to go to the overcrowded spaces. We actually don't mind running behind a celebrity to take selfies even if it is heavily crowded. We do not mind jumping in the crowds, jumping in the concerts just to have little more attention, little more happiness. So this is some of the habits that even Indians specifically have. In fact, it has been highlighted by Teresa Murray that India has got a very high tolerance of crowd actually. So therefore, we don't feel uneasy, we don't forbid going to places that could be heavily crowded. In fact, we get attracted towards them. For example, some of the shrines that our mothers takes us to. So anyway, because we have got certain structural limitations that augmented and aided with overcrowding essentially leads to culmination of disasters like stampedes. Second reason is the emergence of triggers. Triggers could be in the form of panic. Panic because everyone around you is rushing. You even don't know the reason why they're rushing. But because they are rushing, you also start rushing, you also start moving out. It could also be because some of the electric line failures or some of the disaster that has happened around you. Generally, most of the stampedes are seen when a rumor has been spread. For example, in the case of Varanasi, in the year 2013, it was seen that the crowd lost control because a rumor that a live wire has fallen down was spread, and therefore a ravish stampede happened over there, claiming lives of more than 20 people. So that is one reason. The second reason is the inadequate crowd control, that is mismanagement from the sides of our administration. Now, they are not pre-planning, they don't have disaster management plans so as to control the crowd, they are not having effective monitoring. And let's just suppose a case where an administrator is completely unaware of the terrain, he's unaware of any party concert that is happening, he's unaware of the kind of audience that is coming, the number of audience that is coming, he's not aware of the choke points. And in such a case, he is not even able to deploy the safety teams because even safety personnel are not there. He also sees that he's not able to take leadership and communicate among various stakeholders like event managers, and he's not able to communicate with the crowd because he doesn't have addressal systems like loudspeaker installed. So all of this challenges the administration and therefore leads to lower control of administration or mismanagement of the crowd. And then there is poor coordination among the different stakeholders because of the lack of communication. And because there is lack of communication, it delays the overall response of the administration or of the event managers or of the public. Because there is delay in response, and you know that when a stampede happens, a situation happens where in about 30 minutes, a person can become unconscious, and in about 6 minutes of undergoing trampling, the person would be considered brain dead. So you really need to be very quick in actions because the crowd is reckless, and therefore delayed response is basically another form of disaster. So this was about how crowd turns into a disaster. Now, what we need to do, the need of the hour essentially is to perform crowd management and to take up as a very different field and a specialized subject of study. So the crowd management essentially means that you will be systematically planning and supervising the crowd. Crowd ensuring that there is orderly movement and assembly of the crowd whenever there is an event going to take place. Now, NDMA again has come to the rescue and has issued certain guidelines in order to ensure that crowd doesn't get converted into disaster. So it has said that first of all, the foremost thing is to be aware of the location, aware of the audience, aware of the public, aware of the stakeholders involved, and this is especially important for the administration. They must know the terrain, the topography over which it is going to be happening. They must know the dispersal or the exit points. They must know the kind of audience that is going to come and what is the theme of the event, and for how much time is it going to be conducted, and what are the stakeholders involved, and they should have certain channel of communication with the stakeholder if in case any mishap happen. So an effective coordination would be ensured by first of all enhancing the awareness, becoming aware of any concerts or any kind of public gathering that is happening. Next is effective crowd control. Now this can be done while it is being managed, while the crowd or the gathering has been organized. First thing is to divert the traffic through multiple lanes. Second is, and this can be done by establishing barricades, as you can see along the Durga Pandals, etc. When the Durga Puja takes place, so there are barricades, there is diversion of traffic so that the overwhelming population doesn't come from a single street. That is the first thing. Second is, emergency exits should be planted, just like how we have an airplane, how we have in your railways. Why do we have? Because we want to subvert any such danger, and this can be ensured by installing or having more emergency exits in a place which is containing a lot many population. Next is the stake line strategy. So whenever a straight line of overwhelming number of people is created, it needs to be coiled in the form of snake line. If you have visited any Jyotirling, any shrine of your religion, then you must have seen that the way we are organized is in the form of snake line divided by certain railings. Why is it done so? So that we essentially have that much space, at least 1 square yard of space, so as to control our movement. So this is one strategy we can take. Next is to ensure the deployment of skilled personnel, safety teams, which can take care of a situation if any emergency happens. So safety and security needs to be ensured. Some of the means of technology like CCTV, small UAVs, unmanned air vehicles can also be installed in order to effectively monitor the situation. Next, we need to develop capacity. How are we going to do? We are going to read in the next slide. Then the shared responsibility of stakeholder must be ensured, be it the event manager, the shrine manager, civil society, NGOs and police. All of them should come together and exercise the pre-planned disaster management plan that they have created, and then they should ensure that the public safety is there. So the next topic is what can be the way forward. These were the NDMA guidelines, and in line with that, we have got certain way forward as well. First and foremost is immediate actions by the state. So many of the states do not take the crowd disaster very seriously. So because of that lethargy and because of that carelessness, many of them have not created any crowd disaster management plan as they have been told by the NDMA. So first and foremost need is immediate action by states regarding developing their crowd disaster management plan. And in line with this, and a very good example, a very good case study is the Sabrimala Mutt, Sabrimala temple of Kerala. So it has already been performing a pilot project in order to understand, in order to ensure that any such crowd disaster can be averted. Next is the assessment of the meeting location. You have to understand in which location the meeting is going to happen. You have to understand what is the terrain and how are the structures where the meeting is being held. So therefore, a comprehensive understanding and assessment of the locations is very, very important. Next is monitoring and managing the crowd density. So crowd density is the foremost reason as to why this crowd stampede takes place. Now we can ensure that there is unrestricted mobility by many diversion and exit points. We can ensure that there are no choke points in the way. We can ensure that there are adequate police personnel to take care of the situations, and also some of the technological interventions in order to effectively monitor or have a proper surveillance of the situation. Then certain on-site resources, for example, medical resources, communication resources and security resources should be installed beforehand in order to deal with any such exigency. So for example, a public speaker system can be installed everywhere where it has been organized to control the rumors, to calm the agitated crowd, to have a leadership, have some guidance to the crowd so that they can manage themselves, and also to assist the individuals so that they do not create frenzy movement. They do not create a ruckus, a havoc, which can lead to disaster in the place of crowds. So this was about Stampede. The next topic is about the insurgency in Manipur. And what is the context? The context is that Manipur's CM, on the event of Constitution Day that happened yesterday, confirmed peace talks with the insurgent groups of the region who have been creating havoc around the year. You must have seen a lot many news coming with regards to insurgency in Manipur of late. So in order to address this crisis, Manipur CM has gave some confirmation. So this is with regards to GS3 part of the syllabus, where you have to read about internal security and most importantly Northeast insurgency. Now, first of all, what is insurgency? Because unless and until we don't understand the meaning of insurgency, we will never be able to understand the causes which are leading to it. So, to understand the background of insurgency in Manipur, let us first define insurgency, which is essentially a rebellion of the ethnic communities against the state or against the party in power or any other political party, by the ethnic communities feeling that they are not adequately represented. So because there is a perceived feeling of depreciation or inadequate representation, therefore people start rebelling, taking up arms against the state, and that is insurgency. So why is this situation getting created? This perception is getting created in Manipur. Because Manipur, if you see, is like a football stadium. 10% of its geography, only 10% of it lies in the Imphal Valley, which is also the capital of Manipur, and the surrounding region is covered by a lot many hills. So the 90% of the geography is covered by hills. Now interestingly, majority of the population, which is non-tribal in nature, that is the Meitei community, it lives in the Imphal Valley, which means more than 64% of the population lives in Imphal Valley. And the rest tribal groups, which feel that they have been particularly deprived because of the difficult terrain, development could not reach over there. In fact, a lot of insurgency have grown over there due to lack of development only. And there is first perception that they lack development. The second perception is that the people of the hilly region also lack representation in the political groups, because the state legislature, which has got 60 seats in total, has 40 representatives only from the Imphal Valley, that is from the Meitei community, and the rest 20 are from the other places or from the hilly regions accommodating tribes like the Kuki tribe, and there is Zomi tribe, there is Naga tribe, there is Chandel tribe, etc. So they feel particularly deprived as compared to the Meitei non-tribal community living in Imphal. And because there is a perceived sense that we lack political representation, therefore there is emergence of insurgency in Manipur. So this insurgency have started ever since we got the independence. But the official emergence of an insurgent group was seen in the year 1964 with the coming up of United National Liberation Front, which is the main insurgent group dominating the Manipur region, and these are formed by the non-tribal groups of Meitei demanding a separate statehood, and they also demanded succession from India because they were not in support when the Indian government back in 1960s, 1950s decided that they have to join the Indian Union. So, what are the reasons for insurgency in Manipur? The specific reason, it all dates back to when we got the independence. When we got the independence, they wanted autonomy. The Meitei people wanted autonomy, but they were given forced merger, and it was merged with the Union of India on 15th of October 1949. And still it was not given any autonomy. It was considered as a union territory. It was not given autonomy, therefore the development was further compromised. And their final statehood was also delayed for a long period of time, for more than 25 years. And they finally got the statehood in the year 1972. So this eventually led to growing frustration among the Meitei people, and therefore as a result of this, as a result of demanding succession from the Union of India, they organized into United National Liberation Front, which is a militant group operant in Manipur. Next reason is the rise of militant outfit because of the growing frustration, because of the lack of divide, lack of developmental divide, economic opportunities, lack of political representation. All of this led to increased frustration among different tribes, and almost all of the tribes have formed or have mushroomed into one insurgent group or the another. So we have UNLF, which is United National Liberation Front. Then we have People's Liberation Army also, and some of them of Nagas, some from Kukis, the Kuki Zomi dominated insurgent groups, and also the Meitei dominated groups. So almost all the ethnic communities of Manipur are having their representation not in the political form but in the form of some insurgent group. Next is the spillover from the Nagalim demand. So Nagalim or Greater Nagaland has been a very huge uproar ever since independence. So they have been demanding an autonomous independent state, and they said that since 1950s when the Naga movement came, which is considered one of the longest running insurgency in India and also one of the oldest. So when the Nagalim or the peoples, the National Socialist Council of Nagaland, when they started operating in the Manipur region, claiming their Nagalim, the region which you can see in the green color is actually one among the place that is claimed under the Nagalim or the Greater Nagaland. This again brought despair to the people who were considered as their homeland, and they thought that this is direct attack on a territorial integrity. How can the Naga people come and claim their lands over here? So therefore this again started increasing a lot many insurgency, ethnic clashes as well. Ethnic clashes essentially between the Kuki people who considered that this region is their homeland. So between them and the Naga people, many ethnic clashes started, and therefore that also started many insurgent groups in the region. Then the Valley Hills conflict, as I have told you, 90% of the geographical area is the hill part and 10% is the valley part, which means there is huge developmental gap, huge infrastructural gap, lack of employment opportunities, lack of healthcare, education, other social facilities. So therefore this hill-valley divide is also very clear, leading to frustration, leading to development of or channeling of their frustration using different modes. For example, the use of arms, use of insurgency. Now that we have understood what are the government actions, the actions taken by Government of India in this regard, because this has been a long pending thing. So first of all is some of the military measures. They are not very famous though, but they were effective at controlling the insurgency to some extent. For example, the entire Manipur region was declared and is still declared as a disturbed area in 1980 in accordance with the AFSPA, Armed Forces Special Power Act, and AFSPA was first imposed in Manipur in limited areas in 1958, and now it works in full throttle, which provides arbitrary power to the armed forces that are working over here, that are operational in order to ensure the public order and safety. Law and order is maintained via some arbitrary powers that are given. For example, shoot at sight power is given to the armed forces. This is one among the military actions that is taken by the government. It is not very appreciated of, it has not been very effective, but yes, we have to learn, we have to write it in the mains paper, because it is important for us to know that how many domains government is catering when dealing with the insurgency of Manipur. Next is the Assam Rifles having the operation or creating operation All Clear in order to neutralize some of the militant groups and bringing them back to valleys, because most of them resort to hide in the hill area. So therefore, Assam Rifles, which is the paramilitary force which is working to ensure the internal security of the northeast region, that has created operation All Clear, and that has been effective as well. Next are some of the peace agreements, the bilateral or the multilateral peace agreements between the government of India and these insurgent groups. So for example, in 1997, the first ceasefire agreement was there established between the National Socialist Council of Nagaland and the government of India. This tried to neutralize them a bit, but as we know that they are still active with their Nagaland demand more than ever. Next is the 2008 SOS, which is suspension of operation. This was a tripartite agreement that was between Kuki insurgent, the government of India and the Manipur government in order to neutralize, in order to establish peace contract with the Kuki insurgents. Next, these peace agreements have been there, but the biggest challenge is that the biggest representative of the resurgent group, that is the United National Liberation Front, any agreement with it has still not been stricken. So therefore, we can see that the major outfit is still running freely. And according to CM, it is seen that some of the peace talks are going on with this major outfit as well, but no agreements have been set in place till now. So these are some of the challenges. The other challenges is that Manipur as such is a hotbed of the activities, because Manipur has international border. It has neighboring state of Myanmar, and as a result, most of the movements of these terrorist organizations, of the insurgent group, they take place in and out of Manipur. And not only that, it is seen that some illegal movement of goods, materials, people, human trafficking, money, etc. is also done via and through Manipur. So first and foremost issue is the lack of border management, because the border is forested, which means it is essentially porous in nature, difficult to manage. Next is the insurgent groups are mushrooming. They are growing like hydra. So even if some of the peace agreements have been set with government of India, what they do, they try to change their name. And by changing the nomenclature, they say that my group is not doing this activity, some other group, which is its own faction, is taking up the activity. And this is what we know as that these insurgent groups are growing as hydra. They are never ending. They are not stopping. Next is the demand of many outfits conflict with each other. This particular NSCN would ask that I want a Nagaland, a greater Nagaland. Somebody would say I want more representation here. Somebody would say I want more development. But most of the times, because all of them do not have a common sentiment, common demand, therefore it becomes very difficult for the government to strike a common or a standard agreement that could fulfill demands of almost all the outfits. So because the demands themselves are clashing, so therefore it becomes very difficult for the government to strike a universal agreement which could have a long-lasting impact. And then what can be the way forward? The best thing against insurgency, which is taking place due to deprived sense of development or representation, is good governance. So ensuring that there is transparent governance, there is no corruption, there is fair judicial system, so that we can restore faith on the judicial processes, so that we do not take laws in our hand. Also, respect for the rule of law can be strengthened, and basic minimum amenities, for example education, for example infrastructure for healthcare and palliative care, etc. can be ensured. So at least these basic things, there employment opportunities should be enhanced. At least these basic things should be given to them so that they do not resort to harmful means or more aggressive means like insurgency. Next is management of borders, especially the Indo-Myanmar border, because it is very porous in nature. And last but not the least, we need to take up or harness the entire public energy, the collective energy together, in order to attack against this brutal force of insurgency. So, public participation by involving diverse ethnic communities together, making them sit on a table, talk about it, find a peace solution, find a madhyam marg, a median path, and then restoring confidence with the government, that government whatever will do for your favor only, and also bridging the gap between the development. The tribal people should also be having those developmental facilities that the valley people have. This will essentially help us to curb the insurgency that is happening in Manipur. The next topic is about Mycoplasma pneumonia. Now, why is this in news? Because surge in the cases of Mycoplasma pneumonia, influenza flu, such types of respiratory illness is seen on a high in China, and even guidelines have been issued by Health Ministry to keep in check of India or Indian cases also. Now, this is very important because China again few years back gave us corona. So now we have to become extra vigilant when another disease is upsurging over there. So first of all, what is Mycoplasma pneumonia? Mycoplasma pneumonia is a bacterial infection that is caused by a bacteria named as Mycoplasma pneumoniae. Now, Mycoplasma is the name of bacteria which lacks cell wall, and pneumonia is the disease which is the manifestation due to the infected or due to the infection caused by this bacteria. This bacteria not only causes pneumonia though, it also causes bronchitis, it also causes pharyngitis, which means that it not only impacts or causes inflammation of the throat, the pharynx pipe, but also bronchitis. Bronchitis is essentially the airway channels or the airway tubes that further break down or branch out and then create sac-like structure which are known as alveoli, which we will be reading in the next slide anyway. So this is about the bacteria. And what is the speciality of this bacteria? As I have told you, it is named as Mycoplasma because it lacks any cell wall. Unlike Mycobacteria, Mycobacteria is responsible for causing TB. Again, another lung infection which leads to inflammation. But this is essentially a bacterial disease which is caused by bacteria having cell wall. So this is more stable. So TB is caused by Mycobacteria and Mycoplasma leads to pneumonia. You have to remember that. Now, this is atypical or walking pneumonia. Why? Because walking pneumonia is an informal word which is used to denote pneumonias or medical symptoms which are milder in nature. So this is having milder symptom. While it has long onset, it can stay in body for literally lifelong, and it also has larger duration, but its manifestation still remains mild. So that is about this bacteria. Now, instead of cell wall, it protects itself using a triple layer cell membrane which is made up of cholesterol. It has got an incubation period of 2 to 3 weeks after exposure to the bacteria, which means the manifestation of the bacteria of the infected person the symptoms will start coming only after 2 to 3 weeks, and they may last for several weeks. The risk groups essentially includes children, especially from 5 to 20 years of age, also people who have compromised immunity, for example, the HIV infected people, and also people who are living in heavy crowded area, because this is a contagious disease. The more crowded area you live in, the more chances of contagion rate. So the transmission is, even if the infected person is not seeing any sign, has recovered, still the chances of an infected person who has completely cured to infect another person would also last for up to 4 weeks. So even after cure, at least till 4 weeks, the person can still infect the other people with Mycoplasma pneumonia. Now, what is the treatment? The first and foremost thing is that it is a self-limiting bacteria, which means it will die on its own after some time. There is no vaccine as such for this. There is vaccine for pneumonia, which is also included in the Indradhanush, but there is no particular vaccine for the Mycoplasma, while there is vaccine for pneumonia. Next is that you need to provide supportive care in the form of antibiotic therapy. Antibiotics like azithromycin can be administered, fluid therapy can be given so that body recovers quickly. Now let's talk about pneumonia the particular disease that we are talking. Pneumonia, it actually stands for inflammation of the alveoli. So what are alveoli? These are air sacs, as you can see from the image. It is infection of these air sacs which are responsible for carrying out oxygen and carbon dioxide or transporting them in and out of the blood. And they are at the lower end of the bronchial tube. So bronchial tube. So they are very, very essential. Their health is very essential even if they are tiny sacs, because they are the workhorse of the respiratory system. And when they get inflamed, what happens? Our ability to take up, inhale the oxygen and give it to the blood, that gets restrained. So this is what essentially pneumonia is. Now pneumonia and TB, even if it might seem similar, because both of them essentially attacks the lungs, attacks the pulmonary system, but pneumonia is caused by Mycoplasma, which lacks a cell wall, and TB is caused by Mycobacterium tuberculosis, which has cell wall. And the second distinguishing fact is that pneumonia itself can be a special case of TB. Acute pneumonia can be one of the cases of the pulmonary TB. So this is some of the differences, just as to gain some clarity on both the diseases. Next is the status of pneumonia in India. Now, first thing is, so we have got relatively higher burden. In fact, we are one among the 10 tropical countries, including some countries of Africa, which contribute to more than 50% of the total pneumonia burden across the world. So not only that, the infant deaths that are taking place at an annual rate due to pneumonia is over and above 15%. Second highest cause of infant mortality is Mycoplasma pneumonia. Then the top 5 states performing very poorly in the pneumonia in prevention is Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan and Jharkhand. What are the treatment available? Treatment is available in the form of a vaccine. This is a preventive treatment, not a curative one. Curative can be in the form of administering antibiotics only. So treatment requires you to have 3 doses of primary vaccine, that is the pneumococcal conjugate vaccine, which has recently been added into the Indradhanush campaign or into the mission Indradhanush, which essentially aims to have universal immunization of the people against, especially Indian citizens, against 12 vaccine preventable diseases. One more fact for prelims is that India's own indigenous pneumococcal conjugate vaccine's name is Pneumocil. So if this question gets asked in prelims, you should be prepared that this is indigenous in nature. Now, what are the global and Indian initiatives taken in order to deal with pneumonia? So first is by WHO and UNICEF. So both of them have come together to deal with diarrhea and pneumonia and prevent their cases, especially in children. Then the second is Mission Indradhanush by the Health Ministry of India. Then the SARS initiative, which is social awareness and actions to neutralize pneumonia successfully. So when we ensure that there is effective implementation of these global and Indian initiatives taking place, we can ensure that we can protect our children from this hazard of pneumonia. Now coming to the next topic, this is Ayushman Arogya Mandir. This is in context of it being renamed. The Ayushman Bharat Health and Wellness Center, which is one among the 2 components of the Ayushman Bharat mission, has been renamed as Ayushman Arogya Mandir with a tagline that Ayushman Arogyam Paramam Dhanam. That Arogyam Paramam Dhanam. So, first of all, let's read about the Ayushman Bharat scheme. It is a centrally sponsored scheme launched by the Health Ministry in the year 2018, according to the suggestion given by the National Health Policy of 2017. Now, this is considered as the world's largest healthcare scheme. Why? Because of the number of patients, number of beneficiaries it's going to cover, which is going to be more than 50 crore. Secondly, it is also the most comprehensive healthcare scheme because it is not only going to cover the primary healthcare sector, but also the secondary healthcare and also the tertiary healthcare. Now, what is the difference between a primary, secondary and tertiary healthcare? That we have to ensure that we know the concept of it. So, for example, there is a girl named Anita and she falls off from a place, she falls off from perhaps stairs and she has a knee-jerk reaction and therefore her foot starts paining. Now she moves to the first touch point, the first point of contact, that is to a primary healthcare center. There the doctor will give her some painkillers and will have like basic diagnosis by asking some of the questions, and will administer the vaccine, if any, and for example the tetanus, and she'll be good to go. Now Anita realizes that my pain is not going. So now she approaches a more targeted, a more specific healthcare, which is the secondary healthcare. Secondary healthcare where she'll be going to some regional hospital, to some medical expert or an orthopedic expert, where she'll be given X-ray tests, and then she'll be given a personalized treatment according to her specific situation. So this is the secondary healthcare, which is little more advanced than the primary healthcare. The most advanced, which is lying at the apex of this pyramid, is the tertiary healthcare, which is against any complexities. For example, growth of tumor, growth of cancer, growth of multiple complexities related to a particular disease. The tertiary healthcare has to be referred to. So for example, she now realizes that my pain is still not going, so I'm also generating some of the complexities. I'm now also generating some rashes in my body. So therefore now she moves to AIIMS Delhi, and here she talks to the doctor, and doctor suggests for a surgery, and where she undergoes surgery in order to cure her disease. So this is about the primary tier, the secondary tier, and the tertiary tier of a healthcare. Now, Ayushman Bharat is going to address all three tiers, and not only that, it is going to have a comprehensive approach. It is not only going to provide promotive healthcare, where some campaigns will be organized in order to make people aware as to how to have healthy bodies and minds, but also preventive care in the form of screening, in the form of timely screening, vaccine administration can be done. Also curative in nature, where for example antibiotic treatments are given. Palliative care, where emotional support or stress management or pain management is given. And rehabilitative care, where a person who has recovered from a very fatal or a very serious acute disease will be given some rehabilitation in the form of physiotherapy, let's say. So these are the aims. This is what makes it the most comprehensive healthcare scheme and the largest in the world. Now, it essentially aims to provide universal healthcare coverage and also to decrease the pocket burden, that is the out-of-pocket expenditure in India, that is responsible for converting a lot many people into poverty line because of the expenses incurred during the medical treatments. So it also aims to reduce these things. It also aims to restore, or it also aims that India ensures the completion and the achievement of Sustainable Development Goal 3. Now, the implementation authority is National Health Authority, so that the mission can have a more focused approach, effective implementation. This is a registered society under Societies Registration Act of 1860. Now, as I have told you, that Ayushman Bharat can be broadly divided into two components. One, which provides general healthcare insurance, and the second one, which provides the primary healthcare, that is the health and wellness centers. So in order to deal with the primary healthcare sector, we have got Arogya, Ayushman, Arogya, Mandir, or health and wellness centers, which are essentially the primary healthcare centers. And currently, more than 1 lakh health and wellness centers are functional in the country. It also provides diagnostic services, screening, vaccination, free essential medicines can also be given, teleconsultation, health promotion. All of this will be done by the primary intervention of the Ayushman Bharat. Now, in order to intervene in the secondary and the third tier, tertiary tier, we have got the Jan Arogya Yojana, that is to provide insurance cover to the beneficiaries who are decided on the basis of the socio-economic caste survey. So, on the basis of this, the Jan Arogya Yojana avails insurance to these economically weaker sections of the society whenever they want to facilitate the secondary or the tertiary care. Now, let's talk about Pradhan Mantri Jan Arogya Yojana. Now, it gives you a coverage of 5 lakh per family per year without having any restriction about the size of the family or the nature of the family. So here India, which has got more than 5 crore families, And on an average, we can consider that one family has got about, say, 5 people in it. So more than 25 crore people are likely to be benefited, but it is estimated that about 50 crore people will be benefited overall from the scheme. Now, 10 crore poor and vulnerable families are entitled according to the socio-economic caste survey. There is no cap on the family size, and states have been given flexibility to decide on the mode of implementation, whether they want to take up the scheme or not. So, because why? Because this is a centrally sponsored scheme, which means that half of the share on the premium, insurance premium, will be paid by the central government and half will be paid by the state government. This is for normal states. In the case of hilly areas, the share would be 90:10. In the case of union territories without legislature, the share of union government would be 100%. Okay, so it will be portable across the country, which means you can avail your Ayushman cards and Ayushman benefits across any hospital without any limited jurisdiction. So it is estimated to support around 85 rural families and 60% of urban families who have been identified using the socio-economic caste survey. You can also note down some of the primary healthcare services that are provided by the health and wellness centers in case this is asked in the prelims examination in the form of multiple options. The last topic of the day is mapping of a Greek island, the Lesbos island, because a cargo ship has sank off in the Lesbos island in the stormy seas, leaving 4 Indian crew members missing. Okay, so Lesbos island, as you can see, is here, located in the Aegean, that too in the northeastern part of the Aegean. Aegean is what? Aegean is one among the seas of the Mediterranean Sea. Now, when you see this Lesbos island, okay, first of all, it is also called Mytilene Island. You can see it being closer to Turkey, but it actually has got Greek population. It is a Greek island, a Greek controlled island. Therefore, this also had some dispute associated with it. But anyway, this is the third largest island in the Aegean Sea after the Crete Island and the Euboea Island of the Aegean Sea. Now, it has also got a Mytilene Strait. This Mytilene Strait separates it from Turkey. So here, if you see, this is the Mytilene Strait. What are the geophysical features? As you can see that it underlies, or it is somewhere close to the Mediterranean Sea, which is the hotspot of a lot many volcanic eruptions and earthquake because of the tectonic plates which are crumbled. So therefore, it is also impacted by volcanic activity, tectonic activity in the form of earthquake, in the form of natural hot geysers. So some of the geophysical features would include volcanic islands or volcanicity observed there, earthquakes, thermal springs, etc. Its geography also includes 2 bays. So there is a Geras base and there is a Gulf of Kalonis. So Gulf of Kalonis is located here and the Geras Bay is located here. It is very, very minute. The one with small opening is known as a bay and the one with a larger opening is known as a gulf. Okay, I hope this is clear to you. Now, what are the dispute over the island? Dispute would naturally be between Turkey, which is trying to impose its territorial jurisdiction because it is a nearby island, and the second is between Greece because it is a Greece-owned island. So that is the natural dispute between it. Now, there's a question that I am putting forward to you. This is, which of the following islands are the part of Aegean Sea? Please observe this map. Please observe the existing information that we have given and answer the following in the comment section. Now, let's talk about Aegean Sea, of which this island, this Lesbos island, is a part of. So Aegean Sea is actually the westernmost sea of the Mediterranean Sea. If you see, you have to also remember this chronology, you have to also remember this order of arrangement, spatial arrangement, that the westernmost part is Aegean Sea, then there is Ionian Sea, then there is Adriatic Sea, then there is Tyrrhenian Sea. So please remember this because this order can also be asked in prelims. This was about the Mediterranean Sea. Now, the Greek Peninsula and the Asia Minor. This is the Asia Minor having Turkey and the Greek Peninsula. This is separated by the Aegean Sea. Aegean Sea also opens up to Black Sea via a strait. But before reaching that strait, it has to reach to another regional sea. This is the Sea of Marmara. Here is the Sea of Marmara. How do you reach the Sea of Marmara from the agency? Via a strait. Via a strait, and the strait is the Strait of Dardanelles. Then the another strait which separates Sea of Marmara with the Black Sea is the Strait of Bosphorus. The bordering countries of agency is naturally the Greece island and Turkey. And there are disputes over here. Why? Because Turkey tries to violate the UN clause by extending its jurisdiction among many of the islands that are conquered by the Greece, but which are located near to the Turkey. So because there are territorial disputes going on not just in the Crete Island, but also in the Lesbos Island, but also in the Cyprus Island, which we have already read. Now you please tell me whether Cyprus Island was a part of Aegean or was a part of Mediterranean. So let me know about that. So this was about the discussion on Aegean Sea, on Lesbos Island, and a little something about Mediterranean Sea. So this was all for today's discussion. Thank you so much. Have a nice day.